Hello and welcome. Guy Glidden here. This is the first of a set of screencasts to help you with the process of developing some Excel skills. Now, I know many of you already have pretty well developed Excel skills, and so if you think you're pretty well developed in this skill, let me give you a suggestion. I'm focused on a PowerPoint right now that's going to give you an outline of the lessons that are going to be provided. And if you think you can do all those things right now, you might be ready to test out of the process right now. If you're not sure, pay attention to this and we'll get you started on number one. So we're ready to deal with people at all levels of development. Those of you for whom Excel is a brand new thing and you want to get started. Those of you for whom Excel is something that you think you have pretty good expertise on. To do an Excel demonstration, the first is obvious. You need a computer with Microsoft Excel. About every school district in Kansas I know has a version of Microsoft Excel. Shouldn't be a problem. There is going to be a practice and demonstration file for Research 1, and I'll be showing this during most of the time of this screencast. And there are 4 screencast lessons. Okay. When you're done with the process, you're going to get a list of very specific Excel tasks that you will be identified for test out. And you can test out by providing, either by using a demo file that I will provide, or using a data set from your own place of work. So you've got several options. With that, let me move on quickly, and I'm going to shift the screen because right now I want to shift you over to the process of looking at the top of an Excel file, and I'm going to have to move this back and forth because if I try to do the whole screen, it's going to be too small for you to read. So this is the business part of an Excel file, and let's get started because the basics today, we want to talk about these things. Number one, I want you to be able to recognize what a row, a column, and a cell is. In other words, what's the structure of an Excel file. And secondly, we're going to start to look at some things that you can use to move and relocate data. And so that will acquaint you with, of course, the cut and the copy functions and the paste and special paste functions. There are a couple things we want to make sure you get acclimated to in Excel, and one is the sort function, one is the filter function. And then finally, we will at least end the session by showing you a little bit about what Function Wizard is and where it's located. So let's get started. Basic number one, this is a column. Columns are going from north to south, up to down. They're labeled with letters. This is column C, column A, column D. This is a row, and I'll get over here so you can see the area here. Rows have numbers, they go across. Now this is important to know because if you're organizing data for a group of subjects, you're always going to want to put your headers in the columns, and you're only going to want to use one row for those headers. Otherwise you really screw Excel up. And then you want to use your rows to identify the subjects. So in this case, I'm showing a file and we have Aram and Adam and Adri and Afton. The file is organized alphabetically, pretty obvious on that process. So that's what you're going to do. Likewise, this is one of a set of this particular Excel file has a number of different sheets, and they're identified at the bottom. So right now I'm on reading scores, but if I go over here, I can show you the sheet that shows where we have 4 Excel help sessions, reading scores, and we have a couple of, we have a file called Eagle Schools, and we have a file called Douglas, Finney, Ford, and Gray. That'll make sense to you later on. So let's go back to reading file here, because that's where we want to go right now. And that'll give you an idea about where we're going with that. So you have, in each file, you have sheets, you have rows, you have columns, and finally, the cell where the cursor is located is always called the live cell. And the live cell has an obvious function, which you already know. That's where when you put that cell there, that's where you're going to analyze data. But let me show you something else, because we're going to start the process, and I'm going to do something here that kind of skip out of area here, because if I go up here to the top here, and under the data file, I can go over here and I have something called a sort and a filter. Now the sort's pretty obvious. If I go to sort, it's going to ask me how do I want to organize the arrangement of data in my file. Now, I think I already showed you that this is organized alphabetical by student, but I can change that if I want. So let's suppose I want to do it by ID number, and voila. Okay, now it's going to go, and the ID number, I forgot it because this is a made-up file on there. That's the same thing, but let me change that again. Not a problem. So I go back to sort. Let's say that I want to do this by looking, first of all, at the sex of the person, and then I want to add a level, and then I want to go to the name of the person, and bingo. Now I've organized it again because now all of the females identified by F are in the top of the file. And if I scroll down, which I'll do quickly here, and I go about halfway through, I start to get to the males. But notice we start over again alphabetically with the first male. So right away, the sort is going to allow you to, and of course, I've got it a little bit, I need to cancel that out here. So basically, the sort function is going to allow me to organize data. So that's one good tool to organize data that you need to know. We'll go back and put it by name first and do it again. And okay, and we're going to delete this last level here. And bingo. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, now, and I can sort. I can do a sort within a sort. I can do a sort within a sort within a sort. So I could start by going to school first. Then I could go by race. I'm sorry, I need to add a level. So let's go back here and let's do school. And then go by, this one's going to be by race. And then we're going to add another level, and we're going to do it by name. And voila, we can do that. So we've got a lot of options that we can do here by sorting data if we want to, if that would help us make sense of things, okay? The second function that's up here at the top, and I'm going to use this again, is something called a filter. And you'll notice when I punch the filter, and I'll punch it again here, filter, it looks like a little filter up here at the top. Pretty easy to identify, it's under data. So when I hit it's like a toggle switch. If I hit it, these little pull-down tabs come at the top. So here's how I would use that. Suppose I've got a file that has multiple racial groups in here, and it has some different groups of special ed students. So suppose I go in here and I can go into select disabled or general ed or blank. So let's go say, let's do disabled. And I have a group of disabled students identified here on the process. Now, let me show you something I'm going to do with that. I'm going to highlight this file. I'm outside of your file right now. You can see the highlighting coming up underneath there. Then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to the copy function. And then I've got a spare unused file over here. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to put the cursor in the first box, or cell A1. I'm going to do a paste. And now I have pasted and I've created a new sheet, and it has only the names of the students that are in the disabled category. Now that's an important thing to do. Now, incidentally, all of those scores are back still in the reading score file where I got them from. They're still there. Had I used a cut rather than a copy, they wouldn't be there anymore. So remember, cut and copy are the same in Excel as they are in Microsoft Word. No difference on that process. Now, let's go on and do a little bit, since I've got this around here, let's do a little demonstration of our some of our other functions with our operating cell, or the live cell. It does several things. So obviously this is where I would do an entry. If I want to put a new name, I want to put Guy in there, I would do that process. It also does something which is interesting. I can drag a function. For some reason, suppose I wanted to drag the name Guy and create the name Guy down here several times. It will drag that function. Probably not a lot of sense to do that, but it could be something like here. Suppose I have a number for a test, a school, so I could go in and I could drag that function, and it drags that number there. Now watch if something here. This might be interesting too. Suppose I put 201 and 202. I'm sorry, if I could help it, that'll do a little bit. 202 and 203. I've established a pattern. Now what happens when I drag that function? Excel assumes I want to create a pattern of numbers, and it moves those numbers up in ascending order. So the live cell allows you to enter things. It allows you to enter data, but it also allows you to drag functions, and that's important in the process. It also has a formula value to it, and we're going to demonstrate that very quickly here. Now, first of all, let me eliminate some of my junk here. You don't want to see that anymore, do you? So, but you see, okay, we have this little file here. So far, we've talked about creating. Now, already you've noticed to create a new file, and if I want to do that, all I have to do to create a new sheet is go here and I create a new sheet. If I want to reorder these sheets, I can do a right mouse correct on the sheet, and it says I move or copy, so I can move it to a different location. So those are good things to practice with. Play around with those things when you get a chance here. So we've already talked about sort and filter. Now there is a difference I want to show you here, and we'll get to it in a little bit, but keep in mind there's something here called paste and paste special. And let me show you what it amounts to here, and I'm going to do this by doing a little demonstration here, and perhaps I can do it in this way here. I'm on a sheet I don't want to be on right now, so let's move on. My stuff is getting in my way a little bit, guys, so wait just a minute here, and I'll move this out of our way here. Okay, so I want to go back to sheet 1 where I have this process here. Okay, and here we're going to do something where we're going to demonstrate the other big thing I want to do for this process, which is the function wizard. And here's the function wizard right here. This looks like a script F and an X. Okay, let me show you what this little jewel does. Let's go down to the bottom and let's pick a cursor under this row of numbers. Let's go back up at the top and hit the function wizard. And let's tell it I want to do an average. See, and the little floating menu came up here. And I said I want to do an average, and it says, oh, and I do OK. Now look, it assumed that I want to do an average of numbers G2 through G31, which happens to be the numbers in this column right here. So that's where it is. So it's already assuming I probably want to do an average of all of the test scores in that column, which I did, and there's my average for it. Now, to pay attention to something we also did here, I'm going to drag that function over here. And you see it drags the function of the average, so it now, rather than moving just that 84, it creates a new average. Now let's do this again on a different way. I could do it one at a time. So if I did a copy, paste, it's going to paste the function. But look what happened here. Suppose I do a copy and I do a special paste. It won't let me do a special paste now, will it? Okay. Okay, it knows, but it's only going to do, and I'll have to show special paste at a later point in time. So, okay, what have I done here? I've introduced you to some concepts. I've looked a little bit at some things that you can do, and if you think that the things that I talked about here today, sort, filter, cut, copy, paste, and special paste, inserting rows, columns, and sheets, being able to delete, and if you know where the function wizard is, if you already know those things, you can probably skip this and move on to the next process. So practice these if they're new to you, and we'll get with you on the next one and pick it up from there.